Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to sit with one coin that most people toss into piggy banks and forget about, yet when you look closely it tells a story of art, industry, tiny mistakes that can become fortunes, and the wild world of collectors who pay surprising sums for the right variation. I'm talking about the 1973 Lincoln cent, the little 1-cent piece that most of us see every day, the copper round that's been in pockets since the Nixon years. In this video I'll take you through everything you might want to know: its physical specs and composition, the symbolism and design lineage, mint marks and mintages, the era and variety types that actually move the price needle, how grading changes everything, why the rumor mill sometimes spins absurd headline numbers. No, a 1973 penny is not actually trading for $94 million. And what the real market records and realistic values look like today. We'll go deep, we'll tell the stories, and I'll point out the exact little features to check if you want to know whether one in your drawer might be worth 10 times face value, or a whole lot more. Start by holding one in your hand. The 1973 Lincoln cent measures 19.00 millimeters across, the tiny, familiar diameter of the small cent introduced in 1909. And it weighs about 3.11 grams. That weight is the classic pre-1982 composition, a mostly copper alloy made of roughly 95% copper and 5% zinc. Older sources sometimes say tin and zinc as part of the bronze formula. Those physical facts are important because when you find a cent that weighs significantly less or more than 3.11 grams, that's the first clue that you may have something unusual going on. Perhaps a wrong planchet, a clipped blank, an off-center strike, or even a mixed metal experimental piece, all of which can add collector interest. Those official specs are recorded by major coin references and grading services. You can find the technical details on authoritative coin fact pages. PCGS.com. Plus one look at the obverse and you're seeing two layers of history. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, is the work originally of Victor David Brenner. His design debuted on the penny in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The reverse on the 1973 cent is the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo, which was used from 1959 through 2008. On the memorial reverse, if you peer really closely you can, famously, see the tiny, nearly microscopic likeness of Lincoln inside the memorial when a coin is in high relief and well struck. That detail became a beloved magnifier hunter's quirk. The overall artistic lineage is steady, an iconic portrait by Brenner and a classical architectural reverse that echoes mid-20th century commemorative sensibilities. Those designer attributions and the shift to the memorial reverse are well documented in numismatic references. PCGS.com. Plus one. Now let's talk mint marks and production. 1973 pennies were struck at multiple facilities. The Philadelphia pieces, no mint mark, had immense production. Denver produced a huge quantity, marked D, and San Francisco struck lower numbers that year for circulation and special issues. To give you scale, Philadelphia's mintage sits in the billions for 1973, an enormous production run, and Denver's mintage numbers are similarly colossal. San Francisco's mintage is comparatively far smaller. But even smaller, here is still hundreds of millions for the S mint in many modern years, so don't assume S equals extreme rarity automatically. The exact mintage figures and mint distinctions are tracked by grading companies and coin databases. CoinIdentifier.com. Plus one. Because so many of these coins were made and circulated, the vast majority of 1973 cents are common and trade at or near face value in circulated grades. A worn 1973 cent? Practically 1 cent. A nice uncirculated example? That's where premiums begin, for collectors who want flawless surfaces, original red color, and high-grade. Prices climb. Auction and price guides show that high-grade examples, especially those graded mint state, MS 65 and above by professional services, can earn hundreds or a few $1,000s when the coin is an exceptional example, correctly attributed and with eye appeal. The genuine population of truly spectacular 1973s at MS 67 or above is very small, which is why auction records show the highest sales in the low thousands rather than millions. For example, Verified auction records and CoinFact pages list top auction wins for 1973 Lincoln cents under $4,000 for the very best certified specimens. PCGS.com+1. But let's get into the spicy part: error coins and varieties. If you expect a 1973 penny to be worth huge sums, it almost certainly will be because of an error or an extremely rare variety, not because ordinary struck pieces are that valuable. The common error types to look for on a 1973 cent include double die obverse, DDO, repunched mint marks, RPM, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, lamination errors, die cracks and cuds, and even rare instances where a planchet from some other denomination or metal was accidentally struck. Double die obverse occur when a hubbing or die multiplication step misaligns, causing elements like the date, letters, or Lincoln's features to show doubling that's visible under magnification. Some 1973 double die pieces do show up for sale and command premiums relative to common examples, especially in higher grades. But these premiums are typically hundreds to low thousands, not astronomical wild numbers, because they're still relatively numerous compared with classic, historically rare double dies like the 1955 double die. Auction listings and error guides are full of 1973 error examples and explain what to look for. Antiques know-how +1. If you find a 1973 penny that's noticeably lighter, say below 3 grams, investigate the composition. After 1982, the mint changed composition to zinc cores with thin copper plating, but the 1973s are the 95% copper bronze cents. Occasionally you'll hear stories of aluminum 1973 pennies, or planchets of the wrong metal being struck. Those are extremely rare and when genuine can be very valuable. But be cautious, many alleged metal mistakes are hoaxes, cleaned coins, or altered pieces. A proper grading company or an experienced numismatist should verify any out-of-spec composition before you start dreaming of fortune. Coin reference articles that summarize past, aluminum, and other oddities in circulation emphasize that such genuine mistakes are exceptional and require professional authentication. CoinIdentifier.com+1. Grading is the next big topic, because it's the single biggest factor in price. Coins are graded on a 70-point numerical scale by services like PCGS and NGC. In circulated condition, grades like good, fine, very fine, a 1973 penny is usually worth face value to a few cents. In the uncirculated grades, MS60 to MS65 and beyond, the market begins to reward coins with pristine surfaces, strong strikes, full luster, and original mint color. Coins with red RD color, meaning they retain original copper red toning from the mint, are typically priced higher than brown, BN, pieces that have darkened through age. For the 1973 Lincoln cents, auction house records and PCGS population reports show that the real money, relatively speaking, is in high MS grades with exceptional eye appeal. PCGS coin fact pages and auction records list example sale prices and the highest auction records for specific struck varieties. PCGS.com+1. Now I want to be direct and debunk a common viral claim. You might have seen posts, videos, or headlines that shout a 1973 penny is worth tens of millions or even $94 million. That's a sensational number, and it's not supported by verifiable auction history or authoritative price guides. The highest documented sales for 1973 Lincoln cents are in the low thousands of dollars for exceptional, graded examples, and for many error varieties the realistic sale prices are hundreds to a few thousand, depending on the type and grade. Viral videos and social posts often conflate rare error types with individual one-off sales or misreport auction lots, or they deliberately use clickbait to attract views. Don't take social headlines at face value. Always check the auction house's official records or a respected certification company's price database when you see an. First, let's talk about error types in more detail. Errors are the main reason why a coin from a mintage of billions might suddenly become worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. These errors are not just random damage, they're mint-made mistakes that happen during the production process. And for collectors, the rarer and more dramatic the error, the more desirable the coin becomes. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die. A double die occurs when the coin's die, the engraved piece of steel that stamps the design, receives multiple impressions from the hub, the master design, that are misaligned. This creates doubling on the coin's design elements, often most visible in the date, lettering, or parts of Lincoln's profile. In 1973, there are known double die obverse, DDO, where the doubling is noticeable in the word Liberty, the motto, In God We Trust, or even the digits of the year itself. These coins can be worth significantly more than face value, especially in uncirculated condition. Even a mild double die might sell for $50 to $100, while stronger, more dramatic examples in high grade can cross into the $500 to $1,000 range or more. Another important error category is the repunched mint mark (RPM). Before the 1990s, mint marks were hand-punched into dies. That meant that sometimes, the worker doing the punching missed the exact spot the first time and had to strike the die again, leaving a visible second mint mark slightly overlapping or offset from the first. Collectors love RPMs because they are a tangible result of the minting process's human side. On 1973 pennies struck at the Denver Mint, certain RPM varieties exist where you can see a faint second D under or beside the main one. These can add modest premiums, sometimes $20 to $100 depending on grade and clarity. But they're another sign that your coin might be more than pocket change. Then there are planchet errors, which can dramatically change a coin's value. Planchets are the blank metal discs that get stamped into coins. Occasionally, mistakes occur. A planchet might be cut too small, resulting in a clipped planchet, might be the wrong thickness, or might even be intended for another denomination. There have been documented cases of cents struck on dime planchets, for example, leading to a smaller, thinner coin with strange details. These are extremely rare but can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Weight anomalies, anything significantly different from the expected 3.11 grams, are your first clue that a planchet error might exist. Off-center strikes are another fascinating error category. When a coin isn't perfectly centered between the dies during striking, part of the design might be missing, and a crescent of blank metal appears on one side. Minor off-centers, 5 to 10%, might only be worth a few dollars, but dramatic off-centers, 40 to 60% or more, that still show the date and mint mark clearly are highly collectible, often bringing $50 to $200 or more. We also have broad strikes, which happen when the retaining collar that shapes the coin's rim fails to hold the planchet in place during striking. The result is a coin that's slightly larger in diameter, with a stretched appearance. Broad strikes are often less valuable than off-centers but still command premiums over face value. And then there are die cracks, cuds, and laminations, all signs of die wear or metal impurities that produce raised lines, blobs, or missing chunks of design on a coin. These minor errors are usually worth modest premiums, but the larger and more dramatic they are, the more collectors will pay. Now, let's shift gears and talk about grading, because even without errors, condition alone can turn a common coin into something worth serious money. As mentioned earlier, the Sheldon scale runs from 1 to 70. A 1973 penny in good, G4, condition, heavily worn with faint details, is usually worth just 1 cent. In fine, F12, or very fine, VF20, you might get a small premium if someone needs it to complete a collection. But when you hit the uncirculated levels, mint state, MS60 and up, value starts to rise. MS63 or MS64 coins might sell for a few dollars. MS65, gem uncirculated coins might sell for $20 to $50 depending on demand. MS66 and MS67 examples become much scarcer, and prices can jump into the $100 to $500 range. A top pop MS68, if certified by PCGS or NGC and with full red color, RD, can sell for thousands. These are the coins that end up in major auctions and grab attention. The color designation, brown, BN, red-brown, RB, or red RD, plays a huge role too. Copper coins change color over time due to oxidation. A coin with 95% original red color, designated RD, is far more desirable and valuable than a brown one. This is why storage matters so much. Keeping a coin in a dry, climate-controlled environment and in a protective holder can preserve its color, and by extension, its value. Another subtle but important factor is strike quality. Not all coins are struck equally well. A strong, full strike, where all the design details are sharp and clear, is more valuable than a weak strike, where details are mushy or incomplete. Collectors especially prize coins with full details on Lincoln's hair and beard and clear, crisp lines on the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Now let's address the $94 million claim head-on. This figure is a viral internet myth that's been circulating for years, usually in clickbait videos or social media posts claiming that a 1973 penny sold for $94 million. The reality is that no such sale has ever occurred. There is no auction record, no documented private sale, no museum acquisition, nothing that supports this number. It's almost certainly a misunderstanding or deliberate exaggeration. Sometimes, creators use hypothetical, insurance values, or misinterpret articles about extremely rare coins from other dates, like the 1943 copper cent or 1955 double die, and apply them to 1973. Other times, they simply invent numbers to get clicks. The truth is that the most expensive 1973 Lincoln cent ever sold publicly is in the low thousands, and even those are exceptional, ultra-high-grade coins. There are no verified 7-figure, let alone 8-figure, sales for this date. Let's start with something that most new collectors never hear about: die states and die progression. Every coin struck by the U.S. Mint is created by a hardened steel die pressing the design into a blank planchet. But those dies don't last forever. Over time, they wear down, develop cracks, and even break. Each stage of that wear is called a die state, and each stage can produce slightly different coins. Early die states usually produce crisp, sharp designs with perfect detail. Later die states might show die cracks, flow lines, tiny radial lines caused by metal flow during striking, or soft, worn details. Collectors often pay more for early die state examples because they are closer to the original intended design. However, late die states can also be desirable, especially if they feature dramatic die breaks or retained cuds, which are chunks of the die that broke off but stayed partially attached. These features can turn an ordinary coin into a valuable error. Closely related to die states is the concept of die life and die marriages. A die marriage refers to the specific pairing of an obverse and reverse die. Because dies wear out and are replaced, different combinations occur throughout a coin's mintage run. Some pairings are rare simply because the die was used for a short period. Advanced collectors will sometimes try to collect coins from every known die marriage, turning what seems like a simple series into a deep and complex collecting challenge. For 1973 Lincoln cents, die marriage research is still ongoing, but certain double dies and RPM varieties are associated with specific die pairings, and those are often documented in specialist variety guides. Now let's turn our attention to something that causes endless confusion: population reports and census data. When coins are graded by services like PCGS or NGC, the results are recorded in population reports, databases that show how many coins of a specific type and date have been graded at each grade level. This data is a powerful tool for understanding rarity. For example, there might be thousands of MS65RD 1973 D cents, but only a handful of MS68RD examples. That scarcity explains why the MS68 coins are so expensive. However, population data must be interpreted carefully. A low population doesn't always mean a coin is inherently rare. Sometimes it just means few people have submitted that coin for grading. On the flip side, a high population doesn't always mean a coin is common if demand is equally high. Learning how to read population reports is one of the best ways to understand why certain coins command premium prices. Closely tied to population data is the concept of condition rarity. This is when a coin is common in lower grades but extremely rare in high grades. The 1973 Lincoln cent is a perfect example. Billions were minted, so circulated coins are common. But because most coins entered circulation quickly and were handled roughly, pristine examples are scarce. Finding a truly flawless, fully red MS-68 coin is much harder than most people realize, and that's why they sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars, even though the coin is otherwise common. Now let's talk about a topic that is unfortunately becoming more relevant every year: counterfeits and altered coins. The rise of online marketplaces has made it easier for fake coins to circulate, and while counterfeit Lincoln cents are relatively rare compared to gold or silver coins, they do exist. Some counterfeiters create cast copies, which often have softer details and unusual surface textures. Others attempt to alter common coins into rare varieties, for example, by adding a mint mark or altering a digit in the date. Sometimes they'll take a normal 1973 D penny and try to remove the D to pass it off as a Philadelphia Mint coin, or they might try to fake a double die by engraving lines into the lettering. These fakes can be surprisingly convincing to the untrained EYE.so. How do you protect yourself? First, learn the diagnostics of genuine varieties. Double dies, for example, have specific characteristics: split serifs, notches, and rounded doubling that can't be easily faked. RPMs have distinct punch shapes and positions that are well documented in reference books. If you know what to look for, you'll spot a fake quickly. Second, examine the surfaces carefully under magnification. Look for tool marks, unnatural shine, or suspicious color differences. Third, weigh the coin and measure its dimensions. Cast fakes often deviate from the correct specifications. And finally, when in doubt, get the coin authenticated by a professional grading service. Their experts have seen thousands of genuine examples and are trained to detect even subtle forgeries. With authentication and population data covered, let's explore the psychology of the coin market, because understanding how collectors think is key to understanding why coins are worth what they are. The coin market is driven by a mix of supply and demand, nostalgia, historical significance, aesthetics, and sometimes sheer hype. For example, coins from popular series like Lincoln cents have larger collector bases, which increases demand. Coins tied to significant historical events, like the 1943 steel cent from World War II, tend to be more sought after. Aesthetics also matter. Coins with beautiful toning, full strikes, and exceptional eye appeal often bring strong premiums even if their numeric grade is the same as a less attractive coin. And hype, though less predictable, plays a role too. When a particular variety gets attention in the media or on social platforms, demand can spike temporarily, driving up prices. This psychological aspect also explains why certain coins, even common ones, can become highly collectible. Many people have emotional attachments to Lincoln cents because they've been part of American life for over a century. For some, collecting them is a connection to childhood memories of sorting through change. For others, it's about owning a tangible piece of history. These emotional drivers sustain long-term demand for coins like the 1973 cent, even though billions exist. Now, let's discuss market cycles and investment potential. Like any collectible market, coin values rise and fall based on broader economic trends, collector interest, and changes in disposable income. During economic booms, rare coins often see price increases as collectors have more money to spend. During recessions, prices might soften as demand dips. However, coins with true rarity, whether by mintage, variety, or condition, tend to hold their value better over time. If you're thinking of coins as an investment, the key is to focus on quality and rarity, not hype. A truly rare MS-68 RD 1973 cent or a dramatic era coin will likely retain or grow in value over decades, while a circulated common coin probably won't. At this point, let's consider how provenance and story can elevate a coin's value even further. Suppose two coins are identical in grade, color, and strike quality. One is just a random example. The other was part of a famous collection, perhaps one assembled by a noted numismatist or featured in a well-known reference book. That second coin can command a significant premium simply because of its documented history. This is why auction catalogs often emphasize provenance. It's not just about the coin, it's about the story behind it. Speaking of stories, let's look at some famous Lincoln cent discoveries that shaped the hobby. The 1943 copper cent, accidentally struck on bronze planchets left over from 1942, became legendary when a handful were discovered, some now worth over $1 million. The 1955 double die obverse is another iconic piece, with its dramatic doubling visible even without magnification. These coins prove that even the most common series can produce rarities worth life-changing sums. While 1973 doesn't have a comparable, Holy Grail, error, it does have its share of rare double dies, RPMs, and high-grade examples that collectors actively pursue. Another advanced topic worth understanding is die attribution and variety naming conventions. Serious collectors often catalog varieties using systems like the CANICA, Combined Organizations of Numismatic Error Collectors of America, numbering system, or the Wechsler die variety files. Each variety, whether it's a double die RPM or other anomaly, is assigned a reference number. Learning these systems not only helps you identify your coin but also makes it easier to sell, as buyers trust documented, cataloged varieties more than vague, looks doubled, descriptions. A 1973 DDO001, for example, will attract more attention and bids than 1973 penny with doubling. Finally, let's begin with something most people never consider: the global coin market and its impact on U.S. cents. While it's easy to think of the Lincoln cent as purely an American collectible, the reality is that the demand for U.S. coins is worldwide. Collectors in Europe, Asia, and South America actively seek U.S. coins, including modern cents, because they represent stability, history, and a deeply documented series. Many overseas collectors start with popular, affordable series, and Lincoln cents are perfect for that. As a result, demand for high-grade examples and rare varieties doesn't just come from American buyers. When you factor in global interest, the demand curve broadens significantly, which helps explain why even modern coins like the 1973 cent can sometimes command surprising premiums in top condition. Additionally, international auction houses often feature U.S. coins, expanding the market beyond domestic buyers and contributing to higher realized prices for rare pieces. Now, let's connect the 1973 cent to the world of metals and economics. The value of copper, the primary metal in pre-1982 cents, has fluctuated dramatically over the decades. In 1973, the average price of copper hovered around 80 cents per pound. Today, it's several times higher, often trading in the range of $3 to $4 per pound or more. Because each pre-1982 cent contains about 2.95 grams of copper, its intrinsic metal value is now well above 1 cent. This has led to debates about the future of the penny, and whether it's economically sensible to keep producing a coin that costs more to make than its face value. It's currently illegal to melt U.S. cents for their metal content, but the underlying economics still influence the collector market. Some investors even hoard pre-1982 cents in bulk, viewing them as a hedge against rising metal prices. This metal value perspective adds an unexpected dimension to collecting. Your 1973 cents may not only have numismatic value but also intrinsic commodity value. Next, let's take a closer look at the science and technology of coin production, because understanding how coins are made deepens your appreciation of why errors occur, and why certain errors are so rare and valuable. The minting process begins with blank planchets created from rolled sheets of metal. These blanks are cut, cleaned, and upset, given a raised rim, before being fed into presses. The dies, which bear the coin's design, strike each planchet with immense pressure, typically around 40 to 60 tons for a cent. The result is a detailed, high-relief coin with sharp edges and precise inscriptions. However, even with modern quality control, mistakes happen. Dies can clash, strike each other without a planchet in place, leaving impressions of one die on another. Planchets can be improperly prepared, causing laminations or missing layers. Presses can misfeed planchets, creating off-center or double-struck coins. Each step of the process is an opportunity for something to go wrong, and those mistakes, once caught and authenticated, are the foundation of the error coin market. The minting process has evolved significantly since 1973. Back then, much of the process still involved manual inspection and human oversight. Today, Advanced automation, laser engraving, and high-speed digital imaging have dramatically improved quality control. This is why many modern eras are rarer, but also why they can command very high premiums when they do occur. Understanding these technological shifts helps collectors contextualize their coins and appreciate the historical moment they represent. A 1973-era coin isn't just a mistake, it's a snapshot of a specific technological era at the US Mint. Speaking of technology, let's talk about one of the most exciting developments in modern numismatics: artificial intelligence and digital analysis. In recent years, machine learning algorithms and image recognition software have begun to play a role in coin grading, authentication, and variety attribution. Advanced programs can analyze high-resolution images of coins, detect microscopic features, and compare them to known reference examples. This technology is being used by grading services, auction houses, and even hobbyists to improve accuracy and speed. For example, AI can spot subtle doubling or minute die markers that a human might miss. It can also help detect counterfeits by identifying inconsistencies in design elements, metal composition, or strike characteristics. While AI isn't replacing human graders anytime soon, it's becoming a powerful tool that complements traditional expertise, and it's making coin collecting more accessible to beginners by lowering the barrier to accurate identification. Now let's shift gears and dive into one of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting: real-life discoveries and hoards. Throughout history, massive caches of coins have been discovered in attics, basements, safety deposit boxes, and forgotten bank vaults. Each discovery sends ripples through the collector community and can dramatically change the market for certain coins. One of the most famous hoards of Lincoln cents was the Great Red Hoard, a collection of thousands of brilliant red, uncirculated cents from the 1950s through the 1970s discovered in a Midwest estate. Many of those coins ended up as top pop graded examples because they had been stored carefully and untouched for decades. It's not hard to imagine that some of the highest graded 1973 cents on the market today came from similar forgotten stashes. Individual discoveries can also be game changers. Stories abound of people finding rare double dies or dramatic errors in pocket change, coin rolls, or inherited collections. One collector famously purchased a bag of unsearched pennies from a bank and discovered a rare double die 1972 penny worth hundreds. Another found a dramatic off-center 1973 D penny in a jar of change that later sold for over $500. These stories highlight one of the most appealing aspects of coin collecting: the treasure hunt. Unlike many hobbies, coin collecting offers the real possibility of finding something valuable in everyday circulation, and that keeps people searching. Now, let's explore how cultural and historical shifts influence collecting trends. In the 1970s, most coin collectors focused on older coins, 19th century silver dollars, early copper large cents, and gold pieces. Modern coins were often dismissed as too common or too new to be valuable. But that mindset has changed dramatically. Today, there's a growing appreciation for modern series, and the Lincoln cent is a major beneficiary of that shift. Younger collectors, especially those who grew up seeing these coins in circulation, are drawn to them. As a result, demand for high-grade modern cents, including 1973, has risen significantly in recent decades. Auction results reflect this trend. Coins that once sold for $50 now fetch $300 or more, simply because more collectors are competing for them. Another interesting trend is the rise of set collecting and registry competition. Many collectors now aim to assemble complete sets of Lincoln cents, including every date, mint mark, and major variety. Registry sets, collections submitted to grading services and ranked based on quality, have added a competitive dimension to the hobby. Collectors vie for the top spots, and the result is intense demand for the highest graded coins. A 1973 MS-68 RD might be relatively common in absolute terms, but if only a handful exist, they become critical to completing a top-ranked registry set, and that drives prices upward. This competition has created a thriving secondary market and has pushed many modern coins into the spotlight. Let's also address the future of the penny, because its uncertain fate has implications for collectors. The debate over whether to discontinue the cent has been ongoing for decades. Critics argue that it's outdated, costs too much to produce, and has little purchasing power. Supporters counter that it's a symbol of American tradition and an essential part of pricing and commerce. If the penny were ever discontinued, interest in the series, especially in older issues like the 1973, would almost certainly spike. Historical precedent supports this. When the half-cent was discontinued in 1857, it quickly became a collectible curiosity. Let's start with one of the most exciting areas for collectors and investors alike: auction records and real-world sales. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections regularly handle rare and high-grade Lincoln cents, and the results can be astonishing. While most circulated 1973 cents are worth only their face value, pristine, certified examples in top condition, especially with full red color and high mint state grades, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. For instance, MS-67RD examples have sold for $400 to $800 depending on eye appeal and timing. But the truly rare MS-68RD examples, those near-perfect coins that survived 5 decades without a single blemish, have been known to sell for well over $3,000, with some private sales rumored to approach $5,000 or more. And then there's the realm of errors and varieties. Dramatic off-center strikes, double-struck coins, or exceptionally bold doubled dies have reached into the 4-figure range at auction. These sales demonstrate an important principle: the market values rarity, condition, and desirability above all else. A coin doesn't have to be ancient or made of gold to be worth a fortune. It just needs to be the best of the best, or to have something unique about it. And because billions of 1973 cents were minted, the tiny fraction that survived in top condition is exponentially rarer, making those coins the ones serious collectors fight over at auction. Now, let's talk about how auctions work and why they matter so much to coin values. Auctions are not just marketplaces, they are price-setting mechanisms. When a rare or high-grade coin comes to market, it often attracts multiple bidders. Each bid represents a collector's willingness to pay, and as those bids escalate, they establish a new market standard. The next time a similar coin is offered, its price will likely reflect that new benchmark. This is why auction records are closely watched by collectors, dealers, and investors. They're not just numbers, they're signals about where the market is headed. Understanding auction dynamics also helps you as a collector. Many coins sell for far more in competitive auction settings than they would in a private sale. Bidding wars, emotional attachment, and the fear of missing out can drive prices up significantly. Savvy collectors sometimes use this to their advantage, timing their sales for when demand is hottest or strategically bidding when competition is low. And because auction results are publicly recorded, they also become part of a coin's provenance, a piece of its story that can add future value. With auction fundamentals in mind, let's shift gears to one of the most rewarding aspects of coin collecting: building a collection. There's no single, right, way to collect 1973 cents. The approach depends on your goals, budget, and interests. Some collectors aim to build a complete date and mint mark set, including 1973, Philadelphia, 1973D, Denver, and 1973S, San Francisco proof. Others focus on condition, seeking the highest graded examples available. Still others specialize in errors and varieties, building a collection of doubled dies, RPMs, off-centers, and other minting anomalies. Another popular strategy is the typeset approach, where collectors aim to acquire one example of each major design change or metal composition. In this context, the 1973 cent represents a classic mid-20th century copper coin, part of the long-running Lincoln Memorial Reverse Series, 1959 to 2008. Including it in a typeset offers historical context and showcases the evolution of U.S. coinage. For advanced collectors, there's the specialized variety set, an approach that turns a single date into a deep and challenging pursuit. Instead of collecting one 1973 penny, you might aim to collect every known doubled die, RPM, or die state. This type of collecting requires detailed research, patience, an often significant investment, but it's also one of the most intellectually satisfying ways to build a collection. And because variety collectors compete for a limited supply of coins, rare varieties often appreciate in value faster than more common coins. Speaking of investment, let's explore the strategies for investing in coins like the 1973 cent. First and foremost, understand that coin investing is not about quick profits. It's a long-term endeavor that rewards patience, research, and strategic buying. The best investment-grade coins are those that combine rarity, demand, condition, and eye appeal. For a 1973 cent, this usually means certified MS67RD or MS68RD examples, dramatic mint errors, or rare varieties with established collector demand. Another strategy is to invest in key date sets, where you assemble coins that represent the rarest or most desirable issues within a series. While 1973 is not a key date in terms of mintage, high-grade examples are key condition rarities. Investors also look for coins with low population numbers, those with very few examples graded at a particular level. A population of 5 or 10 MS68RD coins means extreme scarcity, and that scarcity drives long-term appreciation. Timing also plays a role. Like any market, coin prices fluctuate based on demand, economic conditions, and collector trends. Buying during periods of low demand and selling when interest peaks can yield substantial returns. Tracking auction results, following numismatic publications, and staying active in collector communities can give you the insights needed to time your buys and sells effectively. Let's turn now to one of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting, the emotional and historical value that transcends monetary worth. Every 1973 cent is a time capsule from a pivotal era in American history. It was minted during a time of economic upheaval, cultural change, and political transformation. The Vietnam War was winding down, the Watergate scandal was unfolding, and the country was grappling with inflation and shifting social dynamics. Each coin minted that year carries the imprint of that moment, a tiny artifact of a complex and evolving nation. This historical resonance is part of what makes coin collecting so compelling. Let's start with one of the most exciting areas for collectors and investors alike: auction records and real-world sales. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections regularly handle rare and high-grade Lincoln cents, and the results can be astonishing. While most circulated 1973 cents are worth only their face value, pristine, certified examples in top condition, especially with full red color and high mint state grades, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. For instance, MS67RD examples have sold for $400 to $800 depending on eye appeal and timing. But the truly rare MS68RD examples, those near-perfect coins that survived 5 decades without a single blemish, have been known to sell for well over $3,000, with some private sales rumored to approach $5,000 or more. And then there's the realm of errors and varieties: dramatic off-center strikes, double-struck coins, or exceptionally bold doubled dies have reached into the 4-figure range at auction. These sales demonstrate an important principle: the market values rarity, condition, and desirability above all else. A coin doesn't have to be ancient or made of gold to be worth a fortune. It just needs to be the best of the best, or to have something unique about it. And because billions of 1973 cents were minted, the tiny fraction that survived in top condition is exponentially rarer, making those coins the ones serious collectors fight over at auction. Now, let's talk about how auctions work and why they matter so much to coin values. Auctions are not just marketplaces, they are price-setting mechanisms. When a rare or high-grade coin comes to market, it often attracts multiple bidders. Each bid represents a collector's willingness to pay, and as those bids escalate, they establish a new market standard. The next time a similar coin is offered, its price will likely reflect that new benchmark. This is why auction records are closely watched by collectors, dealers, and investors. They're not just numbers, they're signals about where the market is headed. Understanding auction dynamics also helps you as a collector. Many coins sell for far more in competitive auction settings than they would in a private sale. Bidding wars, emotional attachment, and the fear of missing out can drive prices up significantly. Savvy collectors sometimes use this to their advantage, timing their sales for when demand is hottest or strategically bidding when competition is low. And because auction results are publicly recorded, they also become part of a coin's provenance, a piece of its story that can add future value. With auction fundamentals in mind, let's shift gears to one of the most rewarding aspects of coin collecting: building a collection. There's no single, right, way to collect 1973 cents. The approach depends on your goals, budget, and interests. Some collectors aim to build a complete date and mint set, including 1973, Philadelphia, 1973D, Denver, and 1973S, San Francisco proof. Others focus on condition, seeking the highest graded examples available. Still others specialize in errors and varieties, building a collection of doubled dies, RPMs, off-centers, and other minting anomalies. Another popular strategy is the typeset approach, where collectors aim to acquire one example of each major design change or metal composition. In this context, the 1973 cent represents a classic mid-20th century copper coin, part of the long-running Lincoln Memorial Reverse Series, 1959 to 2008. Including it in a typeset offers historical context and showcases the evolution of U.S. coinage. For advanced collectors, there's the specialized variety set, an approach that turns a single date into a deep and challenging pursuit. Instead of collecting one 1973 penny, you might aim to collect every known doubled die, RPM, or die state. This type of collecting requires detailed research, patience, and often significant investment, but it's also one of the most intellectually satisfying ways to build a collection. And because variety collectors compete for a limited supply of coins, rare varieties often appreciate in value faster than more common coins. Speaking of investment, let's explore the strategies for investing in coins like the 1973 cent. First and foremost, understand that coin investing is not about quick profits. It's a long-term endeavor that rewards patience, research, and strategic buying. The best investment-grade coins are those that combine rarity, demand, condition, and eye appeal. For a 1973 cent, this usually means certified MS67RD or MS68RD examples, dramatic mint errors, or rare varieties with established collector demand. Another strategy is to invest in key date sets, where you assemble coins that represent the rarest or most desirable issues within a series. While 1973 is not a key date in terms of mintage, high-grade examples are key condition rarities. Investors also look for coins with low population numbers, those with very few examples graded at a particular level. A population of 5 or 10 MS68RD coins means extreme scarcity, and that scarcity drives long-term appreciation. Timing also plays a role. Like any market, coin prices fluctuate based on demand, economic conditions, and collector trends. Buying during periods of low demand and selling when interest peaks can yield substantial returns. Tracking auction results, following numismatic publications, and staying active in collector communities can give you the insights needed to time your buys and sells effectively. Let's turn now to one of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting: the emotional and historical value that transcends monetary worth. Every 1973 cent is a time capsule from a pivotal era in American history. It was minted during a time of economic upheaval, cultural change, and political transformation. The Vietnam War was winding down, the Watergate scandal was unfolding, and the country was grappling with inflation and shifting social dynamics. Each coin minted that year carries the imprint of that moment, a tiny artifact of a complex and evolving nation. This historical resonance is part of what makes coin collecting so compelling. Let's begin with the cultural impact of the Lincoln cent, something many collectors underestimate. For over a century, the penny has been one of the most common objects in American life. It has changed hands billions of times, passed through millions of pockets, drawers, jars, and piggy banks. It's the first coin many children ever encounter, the first piece of money they understand, and often the first collectible they ever save. That familiarity gives the penny a unique place in the American psyche. It's woven into idioms and expressions. A penny for your thoughts, a penny saved is a penny earned. Into traditions, like tossing pennies into fountains for luck, and even into education, as tools to teach math and money management to kids. The 1973 cent, as part of that lineage, isn't just a coin, it's a piece of cultural heritage. Now, consider the symbolism of Abraham Lincoln himself. Chosen in 1909 to appear on the cent in honor of the centennial of his birth, Lincoln was the first real person featured on a regular U.S. coin. His image represents more than a president, it represents ideals, unity, emancipation, perseverance, leadership through adversity. During the early 1970s, when the 1973 cent was minted, those ideals carried deep resonance. The country was in turmoil, grappling with Vietnam, Watergate, civil rights struggles, and rapid social change. Lincoln's steady, iconic profile served as a reminder of enduring principles amid uncertainty. To hold a 1973 penny is to hold a piece of that era's spirit, a physical embodiment of the values Americans looked to as anchors during turbulent times. The reverse design of the 1973 cent, the Lincoln Memorial, adds another layer of symbolism. Introduced in 1959 to mark Lincoln's 150th birthday, the memorial reverse was more than just an architectural tribute. It was a metaphor, a monument to democracy, resilience, and the enduring legacy of the ideals Lincoln fought for. Hidden in its design is a fascinating detail, a tiny depiction of the statue of Lincoln, visible between the memorial's central columns. This subtle element symbolizes the enduring presence of Lincoln's principles within the fabric of the nation, even when they're not immediately visible. For many collectors, this artistic nuance adds emotional and intellectual depth to the coin's appeal. Beyond symbolism, the 1973 cent is also a window into economic history. The early 1970s were a period of significant financial transformation. Inflation was rising, the Bretton Woods system had recently collapsed, and the U.S. was transitioning away from the gold standard. Everyday prices were climbing, wages were adjusting, and the purchasing power of a penny was shrinking. A cent in 1973 could still buy something small, perhaps a piece of candy, a few minutes at a parking meter, or a single piece of gum. Today, of course, it buys almost nothing. That dramatic shift in value over half a century tells a powerful story about monetary policy, economic cycles, and the evolving nature of money itself. In that sense, the 1973 penny is not just a coin, it's a historical data point, a physical reminder of how money and society change over time. Let's pivot now to the educational value of coins like the 1973 cent. One of the reasons coin collecting has endured as a hobby for centuries is that it's inherently interdisciplinary. It combines history, art, economics, metallurgy, politics, geography, and even chemistry. A single coin can spark conversations about Abraham Lincoln's presidency, 20th century minting technology, global copper markets, and the cultural symbolism of national monuments. Teachers and parents have long used pennies to teach lessons about inflation, savings, and civic history. And for young collectors, the penny often serves as a gateway to a lifelong passion for learning, a passion that begins with a simple question: where did this come from? Even beyond traditional education, coins have an increasingly important role in digital learning and technology. Museums, libraries, and universities now digitize their coin collections, allowing people around the world to study high-resolution images of rare varieties and historical specimens. Virtual reality and augmented reality tools are being developed to create immersive experiences around numismatics, letting users explore coins in 3D, zoom into microscopic details, and interact with historical context in ways never before possible. For a coin like the 1973 cent, this means its story can reach far beyond collector circles, inspiring new generations of learners and researchers globally. Another fascinating dimension to consider is the artistic side of coin design. The Lincoln Cent's obverse portrait, originally sculpted by Victor David Brenner in 1909, remains one of the most enduring pieces of miniature sculpture in American history. Its continued use through 1973 and beyond is a testament to its timelessness and aesthetic strength. Brenner's design is simple yet deeply expressive, capturing Lincoln's humanity and gravity with remarkable subtlety. Likewise, Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial Reverse, introduced in 1959, is a masterpiece of architectural engraving. Reproducing the intricate details of a massive neoclassical monument on a tiny copper surface required immense skill and precision. Collectors often overlook this artistic brilliance because the coins are so familiar, but when studied under magnification, the craftsmanship is breathtaking. Let's talk about the role of coins in storytelling, because every coin is, at its core, a story in metal. The 1973 cent tells multiple stories at once: the story of a nation in transition, the story of a mint adapting to new technologies, the story of collectors searching for meaning and value in everyday objects. And each individual coin carries its own unique micro-story. One might have been part of a soldier's paycheck during the Vietnam War. Another might have been dropped by a child buying candy in a corner store. Another might have sat untouched in a jar for 50 years, only to be rediscovered by a collector today. Each coin is a witness, silent but enduring, to the countless lives and moments that make up history. Now, let's push even further outward and look at the philosophical significance of coins like the 1973 cent. Money, after all, is not just a tool of commerce, it's a reflection of human trust, cooperation, and shared belief. A penny's worth is not intrinsic, it's symbolic, based on a collective agreement about value. In that sense, every coin is a microcosm of society, a physical representation of collective faith in a system that transcends the object itself. And when we collect coins, we're not just collecting metal, we're collecting that shared human story, that invisible agreement that turns copper and zinc into something far greater than their elements. In a more existential sense, coins also remind us of the passage of time. The 1973 penny has existed for over half a century. It has outlived presidents, seen technological revolutions, witnessed economic crises and booms. It will likely continue to exist long after we are gone, silently passing from hand to hand. In this way, coins become small anchors of continuity in an ever-changing world, enduring artifacts that connect past, present, and future. And this brings us back to perhaps the most powerful lesson of all: perspective. The penny is often dismissed as worthless, tossed aside, left in parking lots, or ignored at the bottom of a drawer. Yet, for those who understand it, it's a universe of stories, meanings, and possibilities. That's why collectors, historians, and numismatists are drawn to it, not because of its face value, but because of the infinite layers of significance it holds. So, as we close this 7th chapter of our exploration, consider this: the 1973 Lincoln cent is more than a collectible. It's a conversation starter, a teaching tool, an artifact of history, a piece of art, an investment vehicle, a scientific object, and a symbol of human cooperation. It's a testament to how much meaning can be packed into something so small, and how deeply we can understand the world by studying even its most ordinary elements. In the next and possibly final part, we'll go beyond the individual coin and explore the broader legacy of the Lincoln cent series, its future in an increasingly digital world, its role in preserving historical memory, and the ways it continues to inspire new generations of collectors and thinkers. Because the story of the 1973 penny isn't just about what it is, it's about what it represents, and what it will continue to mean for centuries to come. Let's start with the question many collectors and skeptics often ask: does the penny even have a future? In a world increasingly dominated by digital transactions, contactless payments, cryptocurrencies, and virtual wallets, physical coins might seem like relics of a bygone era. Many countries, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, have already retired their lowest denomination coins. The United States has debated eliminating the cent for decades due to its low purchasing power and rising production costs. In fact, it now costs the U.S. Mint more to make a penny than the coin is worth, a paradox that seems unsustainable in purely economic terms. Yet, despite all the logical reasons to phase it out, the penny endures. Why? Because money is not just about utility, it's about tradition, symbolism, and identity. The Lincoln cent, in particular, carries emotional and historical weight. For generations, it has been a cultural icon, the coin people give for luck, the one children drop into fountains, the first piece of change they collect. Eliminating it is not just a financial decision, it's an emotional one. And so the 1973 penny, and its brothers and sisters minted across more than a century, continues to circulate, not just as currency but as a thread connecting America's past with its present. This brings us to a fascinating paradox. As society moves further away from physical money, the collectible value of physical coins may actually increase. Think about stamps, postcards, or handwritten letters, all once commonplace, now rare and nostalgic. Their disappearance from daily life has made them more collectible, not less. The same is likely to happen with coins. If the US ever retires the penny, the demand for key dates, varieties, and high-grade specimens will surge as collectors seek to preserve a piece of history. And the 1973 cent, already a beloved classic from the pre-zinc era, will become even more significant, not just as a collectible but as a cultural artifact from the last age of widespread physical money. We also need to consider how technology is transforming numismatics itself. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are now being used to grade coins with remarkable precision, analyzing microscopic details invisible to the human eye. Blockchain technology is being explored to verify provenance and authenticity, ensuring that rare coins come with immutable digital certificates. Augmented reality apps allow collectors to explore coins in 3D, while online platforms enable global auctions and instant market data that were unimaginable a generation ago. In this new landscape, the 1973 penny is no longer just a static object, it becomes a dynamic piece of digital history, existing simultaneously in the physical and virtual worlds. And yet, even with all these technological advancements, the heart of coin collecting remains unchanged. At its core, it's still about connection, to the past, to the artistry of design, to the thrill of the hunt, and to the quiet joy of holding history in your hand. That's why the 1973 cent still resonates with collectors young and old. It's a tangible link to 1970s America, a time of change and challenge, innovation and introspection. It reminds us of gas lines and moon landings, of protest movements and cultural revolutions, of the resilience of a nation navigating uncertainty. All of that history, vast, complicated, and deeply human, is encapsulated in a small copper disc less than an inch across. Now let's turn inward and examine what collecting a coin like the 1973 penny teaches us about ourselves. Every collector, whether consciously or not, is a historian, a detective, an economist, and a philosopher. Searching for rare dates hones patience and perseverance. Studying mint marks and varieties develops attention to detail. Tracking market trends sharpens analytical skills. And reflecting on a coin's deeper meaning fosters curiosity, empathy, and a sense of connection to those who came before us. The process transforms the collector. What begins as a hobby often becomes a way of thinking, a lens through which we view the world. There is also a deeply human element to why we collect. We are, by nature, storytellers and memory keepers. We seek to preserve fragments of the past, to hold on to the tangible in a fleeting, digital world. Coins like the 1973 cent give us that power. They are tiny anchors of permanence, physical proof that history was real and that we are part of a continuum stretching across generations. When you hold a 1973 penny, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a piece of 1973 itself, a small but significant artifact of the world as it was. This desire to preserve and connect explains why the idea of a $94 million penny, while sensational, captures the public imagination. Even if most 1973 cents will never be worth more than a few dollars, the notion that one could be priceless, due to a unique error, extraordinary provenance, or simply because a collector deems it irreplaceable, speaks to a deeper truth. Value is not just about rarity or condition, it's about meaning. A coin that tells a compelling story, that connects us to something larger than ourselves, can transcend monetary value. And in that sense, the myth of the multi-million-dollar penny is not a joke, it's a metaphor for how deeply we value history, memory, and identity. Let's also not forget the global perspective. While the 1973 cent is a distinctly American coin, its story resonates worldwide. Collectors across the globe prize US cents for their historical significance, artistic quality, and cultural symbolism. They see in Lincoln's portrait not just an American president, but a universal figure of justice and leadership. They see in the penny's enduring circulation a symbol of resilience and continuity. And they see in its collectability a shared human instinct, the desire to preserve, study, and treasure the artifacts that shape our world. So, what will become of the 1973 penny in the decades and centuries to come? Most likely it will follow a path familiar to many historic coins. The vast majority will continue to exist in circulation or languish in jars and drawers, largely ignored. But a small percentage, those in pristine condition, those with fascinating errors, those tied to remarkable stories, will rise to prominence. They will pass through auctions, museums, and private collections. They will be studied, displayed, and cherished. Their prices will rise, their legends will grow, and their meaning will deepen. And each time one changes hands, it will carry with it not just copper and history, but the weight of all the stories we've explored here. And perhaps, one day, a single 1973 penny will indeed sell for tens of millions, not because its metal is rare, but because its story is priceless. Maybe it will be a coin carried in the pocket of a historical figure. Maybe it will be a one-of-a-kind mint error discovered after centuries. Maybe it will simply be the coin that, for whatever reason, captures the imagination of the collecting world and refuses to let go. And when that happens, people will look back and realize that the journey wasn't about the price tag, it was about the centuries of meaning packed into one humble cent. As we close this final chapter, let us step back and see the bigger picture. The 1973 Lincoln cent is more than a collectible. It's a symbol of continuity in a world of change. It's a link between past and future, a conversation between history and modernity, a testament to the enduring power of objects to carry stories across time. It reminds us that value is not always measured by numbers, that history can live in the smallest of things, and that the human impulse to preserve and understand is as timeless as the coins we collect. So, the next time you hold a 1973 penny, don't think of it as just a cent. Think of it as a bridge across generations, a silent storyteller, a spark of curiosity, and perhaps even a tiny vessel of destiny. Because somewhere, in that small circle of copper, lies the essence of what it means to be human, to create, to remember, to cherish, and to dream. And that, more than any auction record or dollar figure, is what makes this unassuming little coin truly priceless. To begin, let's revisit something fundamental yet often overlooked: the penny's role as a keeper of memory. Objects have the unique power to outlive their makers, their users, and even the societies that created them. The 1973 cent is a perfect example. It was minted in a specific moment in history, an America grappling with transition, experimentation, and redefinition. It was a year of shifting cultural values, of Cold War tension, of scientific breakthroughs and economic uncertainty. And yet that moment, like all moments, has passed. The people who spent those coins on gum or bus fare are older now, many gone. The stores where they changed hands have closed. The factories that made the goods bought with them have been replaced or repurposed. But the penny remains. It endures as a physical witness, a time traveler that carries within it the fingerprints, literal and metaphorical, of everyone and everything it's ever touched. In this way, each 1973 penny is like a tiny time capsule. Imagine one that was minted in Denver in early January, struck from a fresh die on a cold morning, packed into a canvas bag, and shipped across the country. Maybe it ended up in a payroll envelope for a factory worker in Ohio. Maybe that worker dropped it into a candy machine on his lunch break. Maybe the candy was shared with a friend, or a child, or a stranger, a fleeting moment of human connection, now long forgotten. But the coin remembers. It still exists. And that small act, repeated millions of times, is part of its story. This is one of the most profound truths about coins: they do not just represent value, they accumulate it, not just economic value, but human value, experiential value, historical value. This leads us naturally into the psychology of value, one of the most fascinating aspects of numismatics. Why is it that one 1973 penny might be worth 1 cent, while another might be worth thousands, or even millions? The answer is not simply condition or rarity, though those are important. It's because value is a story we collectively agree to believe. Money itself is a social construct, a shared fiction that works because we all participate in it. And collectible value is that concept intensified. A rare mint error is valuable because collectors agree it is scarce and desirable. A high-grade example is valuable because experts agree that few exist. Even a worthless, circulated penny can be priceless to someone if it carries sentimental meaning, if it belonged to a loved one, or was found in a meaningful place, or marks a pivotal moment in their life. The spectrum of value, from face to fortune, is not inherent in the coin. It lives in our minds, in our agreements, and in the stories we attach to it. This is why the idea of a $94 million 1973 penny, while sensational and likely exaggerated, captures imaginations. It's not really about the money, it's about the idea that something so ordinary could be so extraordinary. It's a reflection of a deeper human truth. We long to find meaning and treasure in unexpected places. We dream that something overlooked and forgotten, a coin in a jar, a relic in a drawer, could change our lives. This dream has fueled entire industries, from treasure hunting to art collecting. And it is at the heart of numismatics. Every collector, in their own way, is chasing that dream, the dream that hidden in plain sight is something of immense value, just waiting to be recognized. Let's now push our perspective even further forward, hundreds, even thousands of years into the future. Imagine a time when physical money is obsolete, when society has long since transitioned to purely digital, or even quantum-based economic systems. Paper currency is a memory. Coins are relics, studied only by historians and archaeologists. In that distant future, a 1973 Lincoln cent might be displayed in a museum, carefully preserved, accompanied by explanations of its cultural and historical significance. Visitors might marvel at how primitive it seems, a chunk of metal representing value, exchanged by hand, minted in vast quantities by a government mint. But they will also marvel at its beauty, its symbolism, and its role in shaping the economic life of an era. It will not be seen as a mere object, but as a testament to how humans once thought about value, trust, and exchange. And yet, even in that far future, the penny's story will still resonate, because it is a story about us. It is about our desire to record our values in physical form. It is about our need to create symbols that endure. It is about our tendency to attach deep meaning to simple objects. These are timeless human traits, and they will persist no matter how advanced technology becomes. In this sense, the 1973 penny is not just a relic of the past, it is a message to the future, a small piece of evidence that we were here, that we cared, that we created beauty and order in our systems of exchange. This philosophical depth is part of what makes coin collecting such a uniquely human pursuit. Unlike many other hobbies, it is not just about aesthetics or utility. It is about time, memory, value, and identity, the very things that define our species. Collecting coins is, in a way, collecting ourselves. It's gathering pieces of our collective story, holding them close, studying them, learning from them, and passing them on. And in doing so, we ensure that those stories, and by extension, we ourselves, are not forgotten. Now, consider the intergenerational aspect of collecting. Many collections begin with a single coin passed down from a parent or grandparent. A 1973 penny found in a grandfather's collection might inspire a grandchild to learn about history, to start searching through rolls, to build a collection of their own. That collection might grow over decades, eventually being passed down again, becoming a family heirloom, a bridge between generations. This is one of the most beautiful things about coins. They connect people across time. They are not just objects, they are vessels of memory, carriers of legacy. And perhaps this is the truest form of value the 1973 penny possesses, not the kind measured in dollars, but the kind measured in meaning. Because in the end, all money is temporary. Economies rise and fall. Prices inflate and deflate. Wealth is created and lost. But the stories we attach to objects, the lessons, the connections, the memories, those endure. And the 1973 penny, humble though it may be, is a perfect vessel for those stories. As we conclude this ninth and final part of our exploration, we return to the simple, almost poetic truth that began this journey, that even the smallest, most ordinary object can hold within it the weight of history, the spark of imagination, and the essence of humanity. The 1973 Lincoln cent is not just a coin. It is a witness, a teacher, a time traveler, a dream. It is a reminder that value is not found in the metal itself, but in the stories we tell about it, and in the stories it helps us tell about ourselves. So, the next time you hold a penny, especially one from 1973, pause for a moment. Feel its weight. Look at its worn surfaces. Imagine the hands it has passed through, the pockets it has lived in, the decades it has seen. And know that you are holding more than a piece of money. You are holding a piece of the human story, and that, more than anything else, is priceless. Chatg. To truly appreciate the 1973 penny significance, we must step back and look at it in the broadest possible context, not just as a collectible, but as a symbol. It was born in a time of transition, a period when America was redefining itself amid social upheaval, technological change, and geopolitical complexity. It was minted in an era when inflation was reshaping the economy, when the post-war boom was giving way to a more uncertain global order, when the ideals embodied by Abraham Lincoln were being tested anew. And through it all, this tiny copper coin quietly circulated in the hands of millions, a constant presence amid constant change. This duality, permanence and impermanence, constancy and evolution, is at the heart of the penny's power. Coins are among the few artifacts of civilization that remain essentially unchanged for centuries. Empires rise and fall, governments change, cultures transform, but coins endure. They outlast the people who mint them, the leaders whose faces they bear, even the nations that issue them. They become, in many ways, more real than the societies that created them. The 1973 cent is part of that continuum, a small but indestructible fragment of the American narrative. It also embodies one of the most profound lessons about value, that value is not absolute, it is created, discovered, and reimagined. The metal in a 1973 penny is worth less than a cent. Its purchasing power today is almost negligible. And yet, because of the stories we tell, the history we attach, and the meaning we assign, it can be worth thousands, even millions, of dollars. This transformation is not magic. It is humanity's unique ability to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary through curiosity, reverence, and imagination. It's the same reason we treasure ancient coins, Renaissance paintings, handwritten manuscripts, or worn baseball cards. These objects are not valuable because of what they are valuable because of what they mean, and what the 1973 penny means is vast. It is a piece of American history, connecting us to a past that is both distant and familiar. It is a symbol of democratic ideals, embodied in the face of Lincoln and the pillars of his memorial. It is a snapshot of economic realities, a record of the nation's monetary policy and industrial capabilities. It is a canvas for art, a testament to the skill of engravers and the power of design. It is a tool of education, a bridge between generations, a spark for curiosity. And it is, perhaps most importantly, a vessel for human stories, stories of those who touched it, spent it, saved it, lost it, and found it again. This is why collectors do what they do. It's not just about assembling a set, filling a folder, or chasing an auction record. It's about participating in a larger story, one that transcends time and place. It's about rescuing pieces of the past from obscurity and giving them new life in the present. It's about preserving those pieces for the future, so that generations yet unborn can hold them, study them, and learn from them. Every 1973 penny saved from circulation, every one carefully stored, graded, and catalogued, is a thread in that vast tapestry of human memory. And the legacy of this coin, and all coins, will not end here. Even as we march deeper into a digital age, where transactions are measured in data rather than metal, the allure of the tangible will remain. In fact, as the physical becomes rarer, its appeal will grow stronger. The 1973 penny, like all coins, will continue to serve as a bridge between eras, a reminder of a time when value could be held, when history could fit in the palm of your hand. Future historians will study it. Future collectors will treasure it. And future storytellers will use it to illuminate the world that once was. There is also a deeply personal dimension to all of this. The act of holding a coin, really holding it, examining its details, feeling its weight, connects us to something larger than ourselves. It reminds us that we are part of a continuum that stretches backward and forward through time. We are not just individuals living isolated lives. We are inheritors and stewards of a shared human story. When we pass a coin from one hand to another, we are passing a piece of that story. And when we choose to cherish and preserve it, we ensure that the story continues. So, as this long exploration comes to a close, let us return one final time to the 1973 Lincoln cent, not as an object of speculation or a mere collectible, but as a symbol of something far greater. It is a symbol of resilience, enduring for over 50 years and counting, unchanged in purpose even as the world around it has transformed. It is a symbol of connection, linking millions of people across decades and generations through shared experience. It is a symbol of curiosity, inspiring us to look closer, learn more, and discover the extraordinary within the ordinary. And above all, it is a symbol of possibility, a reminder that even the smallest, most overlooked things can hold unimaginable value if we choose to see them that way. Perhaps one day, a 1973 penny will indeed be worth $94 million. Perhaps it already is, not in dollars, but in the countless lives it has touched, the stories it has witnessed, and the meaning it carries. Perhaps the true treasure was never the coin itself, but the journey it took us on, a journey through history, art, science, economics, culture, and philosophy. A journey that reminded us that everything has a story, and that those stories are what give life its richness and depth. And so, we end where we began, with a single cent, struck in 1973, still glinting softly in the light half a century later. It is small. It is humble. It is easy to overlook. But within its copper shell lies a universe of time and memory, of meaning and mystery, of humanity itself. That is the real value of the 1973 Lincoln cent. That is why it will always matter. And that is why, no matter how many decades or centuries pass, it will always be worth more than anyone could ever measure. Because in the end, the 1973 penny is not just a coin. It is a story, and stories, as we now know, are truly priceless.